This is the PowerShell Podcast, the podcast for PowerShell and the PowerShell community. You might just learn something.
I think you'll enjoy it.
The PowerShell Podcast is a PDQ production. And now, here's your hosts, Jordan Hammond and Andrew Plaw.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the PowerShell Podcast. I'm Ultra Superstar Jordan, and with me is the birthday boy, Andrew Plaw.
Yeah, thank you. That's better than the other intros I've been getting recently. So thank you so much, Jordan.
I have been harsh, but on your birthday, I'm going to be nice.
Yeah, I should have had a birthday hat for this. That would have been really fitting.
To be clear, today, as we're filming, is not your birthday. But if they're listening on the day that it dropped, I read the tea leaves.
Yep. And guess what? We had to celebrate with my boy, Brock. What's up, Brock?
How's it going, guys? You know, I just feel honestly just so happy that I could be here for your birthday episode.
It's a monumentous occasion. I think I guess last year we didn't have one because it wasn't the exact birth date, but this is a big month for us. I hear the episode after this falls on someone else's birthday. Announcement exactly. To follow.
I just like to highlight that I've already started off. For those that are watching on YouTube with a mistake, I'm supposed to actually pull Brock off the feed while we do the introduction. And instead of doing that, what I did was not do that.
But it's all right. You saw how professional I just brought him in. I was like, oh, wait, he's right there.
I was so funny as I was totally expecting it too. I was like, am I just on here?
Yeah,
Just smile and nod. Yes.
I'll be honest. I was excited for your birthday. I forgot how to do my job.
Hey, it's better this way, to be honest, because some of the stuff we want to highlight is Brock's.
Yeah, but I mean, what's really important, you guys have had some big wigs of PowerShell on here, you know, like basically the creators of PowerShell, right? But what's even more important is it's Andrew's birthday. So this is probably, the height of the PowerShell podcast right here.
So let's just get through some of the crap that Brock's done so we can get back to what's really important.
Right,
Andrew turning 27.
Right.
You think I'm 27?
I have no idea how old you are.
Guess. I mean, is that your official guess?
No, I am going to guess that you are officially 30 years old.
30. That's a big birthday. What about you, Brock?
Official guess, I'm going to say 32. No, 33.
Ooh.
I'm feeling 33.
All right. Jordan is right. I'm turning 30.
Oh, dang.
See that? Me and Andrew are so close that we actually just know what the other one is thinking.
I've told him for weeks, and he just never remembers, so I'm glad it came now.
That's big, man. 30?
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have some Korean barbecue to celebrate. I'm very excited for it.
What's sad is that I am officially 10 years older than you are. I don't know if you can see my shirt.
Oh,
this was a birthday shirt my wife just got me because my birthday was like last month. Level 40 unlocked.
Well, you're 40 and you're still cooler than me, so keep it up. And
I don't know about that.
Little secret for the people who don't know. So Brock and I, we do work together, and also we play some Rocket League, which is a video game where you drive cars and play soccer. And Brock is a beast at Rocket League, like one of the best, top 1% in the whole entire game, and he just carries me all the time.
I try. My backpack's only so big, and I really got to join I see if there's like a senior league out there or something I can join because competing against these little 13, 14, 15-year-olds, is getting hard.
I think your prime is coming. Once you kind of register for that senior age bracket, you are.
There we go.
That's it, man.
My career.
By the transitive property, he's carrying both of us because you carry me on the podcast. Brock carries you on the video game. Brock's got a lot of weight on his shoulders.
I do.
And
it's tough to deal with that kind of pressure.
Well, he carries us on the blog front too. He helps put out a ton of our amazing blog PowerShell content out there. All right, so I'm gonna
go into. Oh, go ahead, Brock.
I was just gonna say I'm pretty sure that's why Jordan actually tolerates me is because I think me writing blogs means less blogs for him to write. So
actually,
he always treats me very nice.
I love writing blogs. It just when it became for a brief time a solo endeavor on the webcast, the prep for that took so much time, it just fell to the wayside. I'm actually starting to write again, which is nice, but I can't keep up with. And let's just go over some of these topics so people can see the true gems that Brock has put before us. How to use if statements. That's always valuable. I've read that one. I've used some of it. See, he's got customizing Visual Studio Code for PowerShell, which is a big one. In fact, we did a webcast, Andrew and I and Tara, on that together, and most of what we did was just read Brock's blog live on the internet. And then the top PowerShell commands to know, which is awesome because it goes over the three biggies: get member, get help, get command. And then it goes into a little bit more of the more functional versions of the commands to use early on. I'd recommend all three. I've read all three.
And there's a whole bunch more, to be honest. I don't even think those are the most popular ones.
Those are just the three most recent. I went by date.
Oh, nice. What's your favorite blog you've written?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I wouldn't say it was my favorite at the time, but it's just an absolute beast of an article is the RoboCopy article.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking that, to be honest.
That one, when I wrote it, I mean, this is including screenshots and stuff, so it's not, there's a lot of screenshots in there, but it was like 50 pages. There was a lot of stuff to cover when you're just here's all the information I can find about RoboCopy, and just kind of putting it out there. And what was cool about that one is there's a lot of information out there that wasn't so accurate, and these big blog sites, they're you're talking top 1-2 spots on Google ranking and stuff that put information out there that's not completely accurate. When you actually test it yourself, you're like, oh, well, this doesn't actually function this way. It functions this way, and this is why. So that was a tough one. But to be honest, my favorite ones are still the PowerShell articles because there's just a level of creativity that comes with the PowerShell articles that you don't get, I don't think, with the other ones.
So have you run into it? I ran into when I was writing a blog about where there's a lot of bad information, where shortly after you write the blog, they update the product. And so everyone else that was wrong is now right. And your blog is now no value.
Yeah, it happens. And it's tough. I've definitely, even these last few weeks, there's been a few opportunities I've had to go back and kind of update some content that may not be as accurate anymore. And it's tough, especially in the tech field, because stuff changes all the time. You might write something and then a month later it's obsolete or the process has changed or something. So that's a big part of it, is going through and updating that stuff.
It's especially high risk with PowerShell because they're constantly working on that one.
Yeah.
My example is I did an AppX blog. For a long time, there's a bunch of information where they do get AppX package for all users and then pipe that into remove AppX package. And it never worked and no one knew why. And it's because at the time there was no all users flag for remove. So you would grab packages for all users and only remove it for that context instead of for everyone. So I wrote a blog for a workaround on how to get it into place so where when everyone logs in, it would work for every user. And then 2 months later, 1809 came out and all users was there for remove. And so I had my brief time though.
You had your moment in the spotlight.
So there was a recent Reddit thread that I saw that was kind of cool about some non-sysadmin use cases for PowerShell and some creative ways of using PowerShell. Did you see that blog or that Reddit post, Jordan?
I did. My first thought when I saw the title is oh, this is going to be some non-technical stuff, and I was wrong. There's someone in there, they reverse engineered game data. So they use PowerShell to extract all of the graphics files and data files and use that to make modifications. That sounds awesome to me. And so it's not sysadmin, but that is still a highly technical thing to be doing there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's a technical level of entry there regardless, right? You're not getting your, grandma and grandpa out there just whipping out some PowerShell to solve their dilemmas that they're experiencing in their life, for that day. But yes, I mean, PowerShell is just so versatile that if you've got the technical know-how, I mean, you can really use it for a lot, not just sysadmin work, IT work, and whatnot.
Oh yeah. I use it so regularly to rename files, move things around. If you're able to manipulate strings and do that kind of thing comfortably, it is so helpful to be able to just type a few words and be able to rename all your files in this folder correctly, or pick a random number,
or generate an image and convert it to ASCII art. I still got to see that, by the way.
Gosh, I'll have to check my PS Readline history because I think it was like, I used AI or something.
And
then
you
I
did
used
Dolly Image
Yeah.
from Doug Finke's.
Mm-hmm.
And then Adam Bacon's Convert to ASCII.
Yeah, Convert to ASCII or whatever.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, I'll have to show you that.
You know, I've talked to him. Did I butcher his last name? I don't
Adam Bacon?
No, Doug's. I'm pretty sure I did. We've talked to him. Yeah, he corrected me. And here I am still using the wrong one. That E is strong to me.
Hey, well, we'll give him a plug. Check out PowerShell AI. Install module PowerShell AI. Get your AI going on. No, but seriously, there's a ton of cool stuff in that module. But
so one of the reasons we wanted Brock on here for a long time is when he started first writing PowerShell, he had used PowerShell, but he didn't consider himself a PowerShell guy. So
to be clear, I still don't consider myself a PowerShell guy because I still don't think I'm very good at it. But
I've read through your stuff and you're wrong.
I will always feel that way.
Yeah, I've read through your stuff recently. You're wrong. So it's been interesting to watch the path, because it did start off with, it's a lot of basic questions. I'm comfortable answering these, and then gradually the questions are getting more and more difficult, and I've got to start doing research to answer.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely been a journey from before starting at PDQ and having a little bit of experience with PowerShell. And I think I'm introduced to it the same way a lot of people are, where it's like you've got some kind of project to solve and PowerShell's the answer and you just got to figure it out, right? To go from that to then being like, okay, well, now it's time to officially start this like PowerShell journey and start from the beginning and work my way through it.
Yeah, I can relate to not feeling like a PowerShell expert sometimes, but then put things into perspective. You solved a lot of problems and you've helped out a bunch of people, myself included. I refer to a lot of those blogs. And also the benefit of writing blogs the way you do is that you don't really have to remember everything you've learned. You can kind of go back and just be like, oh yeah, I learned about that. Let me look that up again. And knowing where that information is, and obviously, because you wrote it, is so helpful for growing.
Right. And it honestly works out perfect for me because one, I mean, I've got a million, faults that I could give myself, but one of them is I've just got a bad memory. And so it's like, other people might pick up PowerShell and they'll just stick with them for a long time, whatever. But like I pick it up and I almost forget it immediately. So like writing blogs about this stuff really helps, but it's also a, bittersweet because it's super cool to like have a PowerShell question. You search it up on Google. And it's like the very first like response to your question is your own article. And then you look at that article, you feel this like so satisfied. You're like, oh man, I'm number one on this search term on Google or whatever, And then you feel so crushed though that you were like, I wrote this. I should probably know this information.
No, we've all done that.
Yeah.
But you were basically the case study for what Andrew and I have been claiming since we started the podcast. That if you take the time, you write the blog, you're just going to get better. It's to the point now where when I do write stuff on PowerShell, it goes to you to tech review my scripts, and you've corrected errors already, which I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I mean, I do own your scripts now. So
all your
scripts belong to me.
Yep, you caught an error. That means you take ownership.
Yeah, I don't remember what that was. Do you remember?
It was. I was
out live here on the podcast.
I was writing out a comment, and I was in the wrong window context. And so I didn't see where I put it and I couldn't find it. So I just assumed it didn't go anywhere.
That's
and then
right.
You found
just
it.
a misplaced cursor or something, right?
Yeah.
And I remember looking at it and I was like, I'm not sure. Like that was a hard thing. It's like, I still feel new enough at PowerShell. I'm like, is this right? Is this supposed to be doing something or is this not right? So I'm kind of questioning myself there too.
Well, yeah, you caught it. And now you own all my scripts. It was a win for you.
We're talking about learning PowerShell and that kind of beginner process. And the three of us recently participated in the first ever, from us, PowerShell for Beginners class. How was it? Did you all learn anything new?
I mean, I was teaching it.
I mean, I'll be honest. I did learn something new. The control space, that was new to me.
Oh, for like tabbing or showing the available options for tab complete?
Available,
which I think is huge.
Oh yeah,
because I don't think a lot of people really they have an idea of what they want to do, but they might not know the specific command or whatever to get that, and to just have those options pop up there for you. I mean, that's pretty massive.
Well, I thought it was awesome when you went to test it. You left out a small part and you discovered something new. So
yeah,
you did
get the dash, right?
Get process. You didn't do the dash. You did get process and hit tab, and it printed off a list of every current running process, so you could select the process name you wanted.
Yeah,
I didn't. I had no idea that get process did that, but it was interesting to find.
Yeah,
Nice.
No, it was interesting. It was, it's one of those moments, just like I'm following this beginner level stuff, and all of a sudden I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do, and I'm like, wait a second, he just hits control space, right? And I'm not getting the same results.
Yeah, there were some people who were pretty beginner level, and there were some others who were a little bit farther along, but it was still relevant, maybe stuff they'd kind of learned recently and helpful to hear, especially the reminders about get help. But it was cool to see that those people who were even a little bit more experienced, we told them install module PS readline and blew some minds. So thank you, PowerShell team, and everyone who's contributed to that project, because it's very easy to impress people who haven't seen it yet every single time.
Yep.
Yeah, it's PS readline is pure wizardry, even for those that are familiar with it.
Yeah, it's very cool.
That whole exercise yesterday, that event, was really good. I thought, it was smaller, but I like that small setting, especially when you're trying to teach. There was some really good information there. There was some great participation from people. Everybody. That's the thing with PowerShell, is like, and you guys mentioned this a lot, but the PowerShell community, everybody just kind of like, whatever they have to contribute, they're willing to contribute. They're just willing to give up that information, and they're even if they're not right about some things, they put the information out there, and we work on it as like a group. So,
yep. And you know what, you mentioned there was some good activity and interaction, and I want to give a shout out to somebody who was there, Learning Key, who said they were a podcast listener and who heard about it from the podcast. Say thank you to Learning Key for joining us. And I think we're going to look to do some more of these in the future, because I think there's a consistent need for people getting into PowerShell to like kind of have someone interactively be able to ask questions and show them things, just to kind of get them started. And you'd be surprised how much time you can save someone if they don't know where to look, and you do. You could just point them to the right direction, and it saves them a ton of time. So I think we're going to kind of do this on a more consistent basis and try and help out some more people.
We had another person that was starting a project for automating new user creation. And instead of helping, we did help. We sent him Brock's blog.
Right. Yeah. A lot of these problems that you will be experiencing in your workplace, they've probably been experienced by others, and they may have even been solved. And by finding the right resources, or finding people who know the right resources, is massively helpful. So get out there, get involved.
Yeah. And not that I want to like promote my own stuff, but a lot of people will look at, they'll try to find a resource online, and they might find a script that does like most of what they wanted to do, and they can just run the script or whatever. But the nice thing with that blog in particular was that it was, it kind of goes through why the script works and like what each part of the script does and everything. So it's not just, here, let me take the script, throw it in my environment, run it, complete the task that I need to complete, because then you're not learning a whole lot from it. It actually it gives you the script, but then it breaks it down for you and gives you all the information you need that you can then apply later as you come across these problems yourself.
Yep. I really enjoy just blogs in general. They kind of, for me, a lot of times inspire creativity, give me some new ideas, kind of paint the map in my mind of like, oh, hey, here's a potential way you can do things.
Yeah. No, that's why I don't want to say that they're my fallback. Like the PowerShell blogs are always my fallback if I don't have something like product related or some kind of pressing like SEO search term or something to write about. I always, again, I don't like to consider it my fallback, because it's usually, I consider it more of my go-to. It's like, that's what I enjoy writing about it, because the creativity and stuff that you can really just like express in those articles, whether it's through your scripts or whatever, they're great. You can just offer so much, and there's so many problems that can be solved with something. It's like you can just write forever about it.
Totally agree. Just like you could talk about it forever, like we do, because we love PowerShell.
Yeah, it's all right.
Now, over the years, geez, can you believe we've been working together for years now? Over the years, 2 years we've been working together, we've collaborated on a handful of scripts. Some longer, more challenging ones, some different things. But we got to kind of do the pair programming experience. How did you enjoy that? Is that your first time working with someone else who knows PowerShell and just kind of like brainstorming back and forth and collaborating?
Yeah, probably like in a programming environment. Yeah, that's probably my first experience was with you and Jordan, kind of like working back and forth between, whatever task we're trying to solve with PowerShell. And honestly, I really liked it because it reminds me of just sysadmin work in general. When you like, oh yeah, you have a problem to solve. My favorite problems to solve are ones that I was always working with another, coworker on. Yeah, you could go through and you could solve it yourself and maybe you learn more. I'm not sure. But like when you go through with somebody else and you're actually problem solving, you're bouncing back and forth off each other. I think you just have so much more to gain in that situation. And the same thing happens with the scripts, you know a lot more about PowerShell than I do. And so as we're going through that process, you might be like putting a bunch of information out there, but then kind of coming at it from a newer perspective, I have a bunch of questions that's like, they can get pretty deep, and then all of a sudden you're learning because you're like, oh, I don't know the answer to that question or why this does what it does, And so it's like just a good opportunity for both of us to kind of learn and grow from one another. So
Definitely. There have been a lot of those times where we're working on something and you're like, wait, so that works, but like, what is this? And then I'm like, wait, what is that? What's going on? I have no clue. I don't understand PowerShell anymore. It seems like every time we run into like one kind of like, what the heck moment.
I mean, I think I'm good at that, is like finding that deep question. And that's a big problem with my writing too, because I get into these rabbit holes that are just like, they go deep, And so I feel like I have to understand something at a very basic level. And if I don't understand, like if I have a question about something in particular, it's like, I can't write, I can't focus until I get that question answered,
So can I give my interpretation of what your pair programming experience was? You two band together to try to fix my broken script and failed. It's still broken.
we didn't say it was successful. All right.
Okay.
We never said it was successful.
And let's be honest, it works sometimes.
So I'm just glad I get a handoff responsibility. It's like, well, that was my failure, but now you guys really need to up your game.
Okay.
But was it your failure or was it Internet Explorer's failure? So that's why is that the causation that we're relying on?
The initial version did work completely. Something on the back end changed.
Microsoft updated their website. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like TLS or something like that. And yeah, I don't know what the issue is exactly. But anyways, we don't have to get into troubleshooting the script, but it works the first time you run it and then it won't work again. But then sometimes it doesn't work. It's like, it's a fun situation. But there's competing responsibilities here, Jordan.
No, I'm absolved. I put out a functioning script. You guys took over something. And
how did we take over?
Through a series of events that are clearly other people's fault.
King, you can have your crown back. Yeah. It's yours again. Enjoy it.
That's maybe that should be what our next community event is we just troubleshoot that script live.
I thought about that, to be honest with you, because like a lot of my stuff is more public now. I thought about just kind of more working on it in the public, maybe doing some Twitch stuff or sharing it on Discord kind of thing. And just if people want to help, they can give me help if they know their stuff or if they want to just watch. Because a lot of times watching someone who's been coding for a while and using the hotkeys and stuff like that can be very insightful. Like even just the way someone who's pretty proficient moves their mouse and highlights things, like it can save a lot of time and end up making you a much more efficient PowerSheller or really, I don't know, whatever you're doing. Computer user, nerd,
it's
IT
weird.
professional.
You spend time doing something and you get better at it,
You do. But also like you have to know, because for hotkeys, for example, I kind of knew they existed, but until someone was like, hey, here's a couple you should use, and shout out to Fred, who kind of showed me that stuff. But until someone kind of showed that to me, I was just using the keys that I knew. I knew that end went to the end, but I didn't know how to, use control and arrow keys to move the cursor around, or shift control arrow keys to highlight stuff. But we don't have to get too nerdy here.
I still remember you getting mad at me when we were working on a script at one point, and I don't know. I don't remember if I was not hitting F5 or I wasn't hitting F8 or something like that. I think we were in PowerShell ISE at the time, and you were getting so frustrated to watch my mouse drag up to the top of the screen and click that button. But I believe the reason that I wasn't doing it was because like the way I was sitting in my chair, my keyboard was like way at the other side of my desk. And so I was just driving everything with the mouse,
He was feet up, lazy boying it. Yeah, Andrew.
And you were getting so frustrated. You're like, just hit F5.
You're sipping out of a drink with a little umbrella in it, just relaxed. I get it.
This is a well-known true fact. The movie Whiplash, when J.K. Simmons throws the chair at the drummer and says, "Why did I just throw a chair at you?" That is actually loosely based on Andrew teaching PowerShell.
Yeah. Yeah, beginners beware. Just kidding. I'm very friendly. They're joking. They are joking.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I promise. So, Brock, what is one thing that kind of a perspective change that you had as you learned more PowerShell, like throughout your experience with PowerShell? Maybe a preconceived notion that you were just like, oh, hey, it's kind of used for this, and then you found out it could be used for something else, or what do you got?
I don't know. Maybe this is a generic answer that a lot of people come up with, but just how versatile it is, how powerful it is, like what you can really do with it. Because when you're new at it, it's like, yeah, you maybe you hear those terms and stuff, and I had heard those terms, and I had always heard it referred to as like, oh yeah, it's replacing command prompt or whatever, and it's limited capacity. I'm like, okay, great, command prompt is fine, and it's like, yeah, sure, so I can do some stuff, maybe write some startup scripts or whatever. But then it's like, as you start getting into it, it's like, oh, hey, I can solve this problem. I can, I can automate this. I can totally get rid of this task in my life, So it's those things that it's just like, I've heard it before, but it's like, there's really not much of a limitation there to what you can do with PowerShell. You can integrate it in so many different aspects. Which kind of goes back to that Reddit post. It's like, it doesn't even have to be like IT or sysadmin related. There's just so much you can do with it. It's so powerful.
So
Andrew,
I'm interested in the
you're muted, by the way.
I was just saying PowerShell's taken over 1 billion sessions a month. That's amazing.
I know. I've already proudly claimed I'm 3 of those.
I think I'm another 3 or so.
So I am very excited to actually dive into the non-IT admin things, because when I write, it's more of an IT version of what I can do with PowerShell, but I don't really get to do PowerShell daily anymore. And so I really need to. The one thing I've always wanted to do is my own home automation. I don't know. I should probably document my process, but so far the process has been ignore it for several years. If I move on from that part of the process, then I'll give it a documentation.
That would be sweet, though.
Dude, your talk of home automation desires is as long as our podcast, right? I remember for the long-time listeners, they'll be like, oh, yeah, that's right. I remember you mentioned that a couple times.
It turns out, though, every time I get a chance, I'm home. I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm really lazy.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's like, I had all these aspirations, then I forgot I was lazy.
Well, usually people pay me for my technical skills, like most days of the week. So it's hard for me to like want to do that all the time outside of that. But sometimes I do. Like I go on kicks where it's like, okay, I'm really into IT and stuff like that. And I'll oftentimes use it as kind of like a hobby thing. But then there's other times where I'm like, yeah, I think I'm teched out. I need that time off.
I've done my tech for the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of like where part of my like imposter syndrome comes in, is that I'm not that tech guy that goes home and does tech guy stuff when you're off the clock. It's like I always looked at those people like, oh, those are the people that are really good at PowerShell or programming in general or anything like this. It's like, oh, that's because they get off of work and they go home and they're still doing that stuff. It's like they eat, sleep, breathe it. Where it's like, no, I go home and it's like, I've got older kids now that are in their teens, and it's like that just like consumes so much of my time, which I love. I love doing that stuff, and so it's hard to say. It's like a little bit of that imposter syndrome kicks in when you're like, hey, I don't really do that stuff when I'm off the clock anymore. Even the PowerShell stuff is like, hey, if there might be a month or 2 months or whatever where I'm not even writing about PowerShell stuff because of just other topics that I've got to hit. And so again, it's hard. It's like, oh, I haven't even done PowerShell for a couple of months.
I can relate to that. Yeah, it's hard to get up and running again after taking some time off. I've definitely done that before.
Yeah.
You know what's strange though? Like I won't start my own projects, but I have a friend that will reach out often. It's like, hey, I've been working on this PowerShell. I'm always happy to jump in and help. Like I'm not a self-starter. I'm happy to help. That's as far as it goes.
I guess I should speak to my experience. I learned a lot of my PowerShell when I was super into it, and I was willing to I was interested enough to want to spend my extra hours that I had instead of on different hobbies on like, okay, I'm really working on this module. I have to push through the confusion that I'm dealing with now and just be in that confused state longer before I really get it. And once I did that, I felt like I was at a new level and things were just a little bit easier for me, but that took me a couple weeks. And I think to go back to a great interview with Jess Pomfret where she talks about, we're all like a metronome. And when you're ticked on and you're gung-ho and you're excited, go ahead and make your progress and do what you can in those times. And when you're not, take the time to recover. And me having that on moment was pretty helpful for me. So if you're feeling the passion about PowerShell, it can be helpful to chase that. At least make good use of your work hours, because I think a lot of times we don't maybe use our work hours as efficient as we can. So if you can, work with your manager to prioritize your investment in PowerShell if you're learning it and trying to get to that next level. And maybe try and do that stuff earlier in the day if you can on a consistent basis, because your growth as an IT professional matters. And it's going to be hard to if you don't have extra time outside of work.
I think my metronome's broken. I think it's like always stuck on this side,
Dude.
Too much car soccer.
It be like that, as they say. Dude, it's been a rough... I'm with you on the whole... I just don't have the fire I did for a while, but you know what? Good news. I'm taking a week off. I think that might help with some of that
for sure.
I'm dealing with.
Yeah. I get jealous a little bit of just like sysadmins that have these problems and stuff, and that they can focus on resolving them with PowerShell and stuff like that. I'm like, that's a really like unique and a cool and a learning opportunity right there. And you can grow so much from that. The few situations, and again, like before PDQ, PowerShell unfortunately wasn't the bigger part of my life, but the few opportunities that I did have, where it's like an AD project, and another one was some kind of a FTP project that I was working on. Anyways, that I did get to use PowerShell. Like I felt like I grew so much with just those couple of projects, that I wish that it's like, gosh, I wish those projects just kind of kept coming, because I feel like that's what would really drive me. One, you're at work, so you're getting paid to be there and do the stuff. But those projects that come and you're looking for like creative solutions, and you're trying to figure out a way to, hey, I don't want to have to deal with this every day, so let me just automate it. PowerShell's the way to go.
Yep, you're automating it. You're making the amount of work that your team or whatever you're responsible for has to do long term. You're invested in it. You get to benefit from it. It is kind of cool. Especially if you don't have a toxic environment, you kind of have that teamwork aspect, maybe a little bit too. I definitely consider that a gift. In my time as a sysadmin, I would definitely show appreciation for the fact that I get to sit in a comfy chair with some cool screens and solve problems and learn all the time, right? In order to solve a problem, you're going to have to learn some new things a lot of the time, in one way or the other. So we're like professional learners, and honing that ability to learn over the years is very, very, very helpful. And it's just, for me, it's been such an enjoyable process.
I think I just thought about how to get my actual home automation done.
Well,
I just need to make a list of each step and just give it to my wife. And then every like third weekend, she could be like, oh, it should be nice if I could push a button and see all the doors are locked. I'm like, oh, I'm going to hop right on that.
All right.
As long as it's someone else's project, you're happy to hop on it. Dude, there's so much truth to that, though. It's like, it's so weird. We're all so different in the way that we get started on projects, what motivates us, what gets us going. It's crazy that just different things work for different people, you know? And that's what's hard is like, you know, you can listen to people, their talks and whatever, and you're like, I don't operate that way. I don't function that way. I don't get motivated that way. So it's hard to listen to your advice when that just doesn't feel like it, you know, applies to me, because I know myself. I know what will and won't motivate me. And that's a good, you know, option right there is like, yeah, like if somebody else in my household has an issue, like I'm usually like, I drop stuff and I like hop on it. But if like I've got my own issue, I'm like, oh, I'll just put it off.
Well, that comes with an added advantage. If she got the list and she's picking certain things, then she's clearly picking the things she wants the most. So I really am adding more value that way. I think I'm onto something here. I'll report back in a month when no progress has been made.
Hey, you know what? Like Brock's saying, we all do work differently, and figuring out how you work. And, you know, some people work well with a project manager type situation. Others are good at project management and enjoy that aspect of things. I think Don Jones talks about there are people who are really good at starting tasks and getting projects done. And then there are also people who are really good at sustaining things and working on keeping them going. And, you know, there's all different types of people, and it's okay to not compare yourself to others and to instead compare yourself to yourself. And I think that's some advice that Jordan's given on the podcast that we've heard a bunch of times from people that they really, really meant a lot to them, is don't compare yourself to others. You hear us talking big game every week with some awesome people. Don't compare yourself to that. Compare yourself to you.
Yeah, I remember talking with Kelly one time, and he said he loved mowing his lawn. And at first I just had lost all respect for him, because I'm like, there's no way, you're just lying to my face. There's no way you enjoy mowing your lawn. But he's one of those just task-oriented people. He's like, I love to have stuff on a list that I need to do, and I get so much motivation from checking that box and getting it off my task list, you know? And I'm like, I would just rather not have them on my task list to begin with. But, you know, that's just the difference between us. And he does. He he looks forward to when his grass starts growing and he can go out and start mowing it, because it's just a thing for him to do, you know?
Does he want to fly down to Florida and mow mine?
Right.
I could use it.
No,
yeah.
He's been clear on that. He does not care about other people's lawns. He likes to mow his lawn.
Dang it. I could give him a small ownership. He could have a small little corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad he's my boss. Keep us on track, because I need that as well.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of times people work really well. Like, at least I work really well when I am connected with what I'm doing and interested in it. And if I'm really passionate about something, working on it, I can get things done really fast. If I'm not, it can be pretty challenging at times. And, you know, dealing with creating a task list and going through it one at a time definitely is helpful for me. And using timers, to be honest, for me too, because I can get so hyper focused and distracted, and there's a lot of tabs always open for me. That's an issue I have.
No, I've got the same situation. I've got a 42-inch. I use a TV as my monitor, and I literally have 6 windows just all stacked and like equally partitioned out on my desktop, you know, and they're just always populated with stuff that I'm always looking at. So the whole thing's just filled with data and information and whatnot.
So you're a day trader?
No.
Of technology.
I wish.
Yeah, he writes blogs because he wants to. Not
yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I don't even get paid to be a PDQ.
Just do it for fun.
I would actually insist on the money. Like I love PDQ, but I'm here for the money.
Yeah, money's nice. It makes the world go round and also feeds me.
Food's
That's true. Yeah, food is good.
So is
gosh, I was jealous, and maybe this is a good time to shout out the work Andrew's been doing with our Discord community. I mean, that place is jumping. So if you haven't had a chance, the PDQ I'm not sure. How do you even find it? It's just PDQ?
Discord.gg/PDQ. Keep it simple.
Yeah, keep it simple. But yeah, that place is awesome, man. We've got a really good growing community there, really active. There's some awesome people, whether you're just wanting to talk about IT stuff, product related stuff with PDQ, PowerShell stuff, off topic stuff. I was looking at pictures of food that people were posting, and it was making me hungry as I'm drinking a stupid protein drink. But it's a cool place to be.
Yeah, it is. And it's super cool to see a lot of people kind of in a similar place. Whether, I know not everyone here is into our products or is a customer of us, I should say. So there's some people who are into that. There's a lot of other people who are kind of earlier in their PowerShell journey, and our products make use of PowerShell. So there's a lot of kind of overlap there. And it's super cool for me to be able to see people growing and people excited about PowerShell and going through a lot of the stuff that I went through. And, Jordan mentioned automating new user onboarding and these awesome things. And, to be able to kind of get more hands-on to that experience and see that more often is really great. Because that's one of my goals for this year, was to help out more with that beginner area and really, because there's more of that than anywhere else. So like there's most people there that need help.
Yeah. And it's cool to see, kind of like you said, there's people joining that probably aren't even customers of PDQ, and you don't have to be. It's more just a good place to go for resources for just IT people or just kind of that tech field in general. There's so much useful information out there, and we're like the community. Our PDQ is full in on it, and you get a lot of us jumping in there trying to answer questions or help people, or just being social in there. But a lot of times it's the community itself that's jumping in and answering questions and doing all this other stuff before we even have an opportunity to go in there and help out with something.
Yep. Super cool. Look to that. I kind of do want to explore doing that Twitch streams of like, hey, I'm going to work on this. Check it out. I know there's some other people in the PowerShell community who do that type of thing. So
I will heckle you if you do it.
Please do. I think the way that I've seen this type of thing done before is people stream to Twitch, but they're also streaming in Discord. So people who want to like interact and talk maybe can hop into Discord, and they'll also be on Twitch, but then they're also interacting on Discord. But anyways, great ideas.
You can do that when I'll be streaming my poor attempts at playing Rocket League.
Ooh,
I am good, but man, when you get up to those higher levels, gosh, man, there's some people out there that are nuts. It's crazy how
my master plan.
I was going to say top 1%. My first thought was, is that the best you could do?
I think honestly, Brock, am I wrong about the percentages? Are you better than top 1%?
I don't remember what it is.
Okay.
If there's people listening that do play Rocket League, I am usually Grand Champ 1 by the end of the season. I go from Champ 3 to Grand Champ 1, and maybe it's top 2% or something like that. I don't know. The percentages fluctuate, and I haven't looked in a while, but it's up there.
I understood some of those words.
Yeah. I have a feeling there's like 3 people out there like, yeah, I love Rocket League. Yeah. And everyone else is like,
those are my 3 new favorite people.
Yep.
They showed up for the PowerShell, but they stayed for the Rocket League.
That's what I was hoping to turn this podcast into. So,
well, mission accomplished. All right, Brock. I didn't give you any forewarning because secretly we're enemies, and I wanted to surprise you with this. But we have a segment in the show called the Common Parameters, and they are 3 of the most difficult questions you'll ever have to answer.
Ever.
We let some people get some prep work in there, not you.
Good. I didn't want it. That would actually it would probably be worse if I prepped. So,
all right. So the first part of this question, I'm sure you'll have plenty of examples because there's going to be lots of them. But I'm curious about the second part. So, what is one time something went wrong while on the job? How did you handle it? How did you learn?
Wait, why are we all laughing?
Because I insulted him.
If you guys haven't had a chance to work with Jordan closely, I mean, you're really, really missing out. I mean, one moment he calls you handsome, the next moment he just completely just ruins your entire day. But no, you're right. There's been a lot of them. Almost like that one time I corrected your PowerShell script, and I was right about it.
I'm sorry, you corrected your PowerShell script. You own them all now.
That's true. I do own it now. No, I would say, so there's 2 things that come to mind. And One of them was really bad. This was like early IT. Maybe I was in IT for like a year at this point. I had transitioned, so I was working at a bank at the time, and I had transitioned from being like a teller, new accounts person, straight into IT. And they gave me keys to the kingdom, and that's never a good idea. And so I think at one point, probably within the first year, maybe two, I had deleted an entire OU out of AD and all the objects that went with it. And there was no recovering those. I mean, I went over to my boss and I was like, hey, can we just, bring these back? And he's like, no,
So
no, we can't.
real quick for those at home, there is a way you can turn on a recycle bin for AD.
Yeah,
So
there was no
if you were-
recycle bin.
Yeah,
In fact, I don't even know it was
doing
a-
that.
Yeah.
I would research that, because you can set up so you can recover objects, which is important, because instead of just rebuilding the object the same name with a different GUID, which causes problems, you get the actual object back. So if you're concerned about that, I'd look into enabling the recycle bin. All right, sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I want to say our domain level was probably like 2003 or something like that. And I don't know if recycle bin was there in 2003. And people can probably go and fact check me. I could be wrong. Maybe we just didn't have it enabled. I'm not sure. But we did. I'm pretty sure we raised our domain functional level after that, made sure the recycle bin was turned on and everything. And in fact, the next place I went and worked, I made sure that the same thing was turned on, even though I kind of knew what I was doing at that point. But yeah, that was a process. I mean, hours and hours of being on the phone with Microsoft trying to recover those IDs and everything. So that was a big one. Another one was trying to do a file server transferring all the data to a new file server using Robocopy to do that. And that, the transfer took a long time. It was a lot of data. And then I found out after the data transferred, it was that weekend. We were going to go cut everything over and everything. And I don't think I got all the flags right on the Robocopy script. And so the permissions weren't there or something like that. Because I went through and I'm like, yep, everything's there. I've got access to everything. Everything's looking great. And my coworker's like, that's weird. I can't access anything. And that was one of those moments I was like, your jaw drops. You're like, oh, crap. And it's like, okay, can I move that data again before the weekend is out? It's like, oh, that was a bad one.
So is that what inspired your Robocopy blog?
There was a little inspiration in there. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, you've got the first part down. What did you learn from this?
I learned to make sure the recycle bin was enabled on Active Directory, and not just to go deleting stuff willy-nilly on a production environment, and to properly test your scripts before you're running a script on an entire organization's file servers. Make sure and that's actually a hard one. Testing stuff properly is not as easy as you would think it would be, because there's so many just small instances that things can go wrong. Like, hey, yeah, everything filed over, everything looked right to me, but as soon as my coworker went to go and test it, and he's like, oh, I don't have access to anything. Well, crap, all the permissions are gone. So it's just things like that you got to try to account for, like every scenario, every situation. So the more time you give yourself, the more time you have to prep and properly test stuff. I mean, the better off you'll be.
All right. Well, you passed the first one. Even me being unnecessarily mean mid-question. You
I'd have
rolled
been
with
disappointed
it.
if you weren't.
All right. Question 2. Are you ready for the second common parameter?
Hopefully.
With all of your knowledge now, which is extensive, I can verify, what's one tip you would give your younger self when first starting in IT?
It would have been a good opportunity to buy Bitcoin back then.
Not an IT tip, but it's a good one. You have a lot more downtime for PowerShell.
I would. A lot more time to myself to create projects that I'd probably never get to. But in all honesty, PowerShell is a big one, and that you probably get that answer a lot is like, hey, yeah, when PowerShell came out, it's like when I first heard about it and started working on it. I mean, this was like late 2010 something, 2017 something. I'd probably heard about it before then, but when I actually started like kind of using it a little bit, it was probably around then. And what PowerShell was first released, like what, 2007? Earlier than that, it was being worked on 2003, something like that. So it's been around for a long time, and to like have that head start on something like this could be just massive.
I like it. I accept your answer.
Wow, 2 for 2 so far, Jordan.
Hey, but this one,
Kick it up for this last one, man. Give
this
us
one that
something big.
no one can get. What are your 3 favorite modules?
You know, I would probably have a lot better answer for this if you had let me write that top 10 PowerShell modules blog.
Not only did I steal the blog, but the rough draft is due Monday, and I don't even have an outline.
So I would have a better answer for this. You will do a better job on that blog, though, because there's just no doubt in my mind you've used more of these modules than I have. I think the 3 that I'm going to pick are probably pretty bland. I think PS Readline, again, like you guys were saying, blows people's minds, and it's just functional, helpful, and I think we were saying yesterday in our little group meeting that it comes installed with 5.1. Is that right? But it's an older version.
Boom, you got it.
Something like that. So yeah, I mean, make sure you've got the newest PS Readline. Look into it. It's awesome. It'll just make your life better. The other 2, this one is probably not as important as it was, but the AD module, just because, gosh, I lived in AD for so long. So much of my career was just dealing with AD stuff. And it's so cool. It's so powerful. I know that Azure's kind of taking over, and that's the direction that Microsoft wants to go. So it's probably not as prevalent as it once was. But anyways, the Active Directory module, super great, super awesome. If you've got a lot of users and stuff to work with, definitely the way to go. The last one is the PS Windows update, because it's just a better way to go.
I like it. So the Active Directory module is, as long as there are people that are still using on-prem Active Directory, that's going to be a critical module.
Yeah, for sure. And if you're using on-prem with us, get rid of it and just go with PS Windows Update. Find an alternative.
That shots fired. You don't like to just set something and hope at some point it follows through?
Yeah,
it does eventually.
It does. It usually does. I do like to know when my stuff's deploying. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, this security patch is pretty critical. I would like it to deploy today, the next hour, the next couple hours, but whenever WSUS decides to deploy it, who knows?
Dang, shots. Bringing the heat today, Brock. Dang.
I do fall on the side of I would rather replace WSUS, but I will say, like everybody else, all the opinions are fair, but it does, like you said, it usually works. It's pretty simple to manage and everything like that. You kind of go, you set it up, whatever, it does its thing. But the only reason that I'm kind of like bitter towards it is that I think it could be so much more, and Microsoft just kind of like built it and left it. They didn't add to it. They didn't extend it. They didn't add functionality to it that I think a lot of people wanted it and needed and assumed would be coming for it. It's just like they added it. Hey, this works. All right, we'll just leave it to die, which, there's probably a lot of other products that could be brought up that kind of followed that same life path. But
so
yeah,
for those that like you said, WSUS, the timeline, there's some issues in there, but the module you listed does work with WSUS. If you have that set up in your environment, you can still use WSUS to approve or unapprove patches, and then you can use the PowerShell script that will go through and install based on what's in there. So they actually work. That module works really well with WSUS as well.
It's just one parameter, right? You add to it to point to your WSUS server, something like that.
Yeah. So there's I can't remember top of my head what it is, but there's one that you can say look at WSUS first, and other one that says just look online.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right. You passed it. I thought I had you that one, but yeah. I'm gonna give you a pass. C plus.
The problem is if you have me on again, I'm not gonna have 3 other ones to pick. So.
Well, we actually don't have any defined rules about repeating.
Good.
Also, I'm feeling pretty good that this is a one-time thing. This hasn't felt good to me.
Let's cut this.
Just kidding. Andrew deserves better on his birthday.
Oh, that's right. It is my birthday today.
All right. Well, Brock, I don't know if you're aware of this, but shilling, like a fine wine, gets better with age. We have with us the greatest all-time shill master in history. And it's his birthday, which means he has aged, which means right now for this podcast, you are about to hear the best shill ever. Take it away, Andrew.
Wow. You know, my son always says he hears about the shilling stuff that I do, and he's like, "Dad, how many shillings do they give you for a podcast?" He keeps loving that, going back to that. But you know what? Not only am I a shillionaire, Jordan, but with 30, I became a genius.
Nice.
Yeah. In fact, I'm so smart that I finished a puzzle in 3 hours. It's supposed to take 3+ years, is what it said on the box. Now,
I feel like that joke was for Steve Judd.
no joke about it, my man. But it's not about just how smart I am. It's about how great this podcast is and how worthy it is of praise. Thank you for listening. Brock, thank you for joining. You shilled for us a little bit. Appreciate that. Give us a 5-star review. I'll say it. Give us a like, comment, subscribe. I'll say it. Give us a nice review on Apple Podcasts. Tell us what your favorite module is. Tell us what new thing came to PowerShell that you're excited about. And you know what? While I'm here, can I just read a quick review that I saw on Apple Podcasts? 5 stars, of course, but we got fantastic podcast. It is the gift for all PowerShell fans. Thank you. Inspiring, helpful, and exciting. Very polished and interesting podcast. Inspired me to get new tools and books that have made a huge difference in my work. May never have found these resources without this podcast. Thank you. We do this together. We are a community. Thanks for listening. Brock, thanks for joining us. Where can people find you? You got anything public? What do we got?
I mean, I've got a lot of public blogs out there. You'll find most of them pdq.com/blogs. We've got some other awesome writers out there as well. You'll find my work on there. I do have a Twitter. It is not super active. I think it's just Brock Bingham. It's mainly just retweeting blogs and content out there. So, hopefully one of these days I'll pick it up. That's on my to-do list that I've yet to get to. So,
hey, and maybe one day I'll get a notification on my Twitter that you retweeted one of my things. That'd be nice. You never know.
Yeah.
That's when you know
it might happen.
The world is full of opportunity. Brock, thank you for joining us. Jordan.
Absolutely.
Well, I couldn't think of a better birthday podcast, you all. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening. Good night.
I'm glad you enjoyed it because it's all you get.
Thanks for listening to the PowerShell Podcast with your hosts, Jordan Hammond and Andrew Plaw.
2 kinds of flavor, 2 kinds of crunch.
The PowerShell Podcast is a production of PDQ.com, making device management simple, secure, and pretty damn quick.